This pandemic has shaken many firmly held beliefs. One notion I hope many have become disabused of is the idea that we live in a post-industrial society or work within a knowledge economy. That is, a society removed from the contradictions and class conflict of industrial economies before the Great Depression. Even before COVID-19, I believe that these categories and ways of understanding contemporary capitalism contain small kernels of truth, but on the whole to mostly obscure continuity with the past by focusing on the rupture brought on by an increasing importance of network and communication technology and the unparalleled level of globalization that came with it. Not only are we more connected than ever before, so much so that it has become cliche to comment on it, but a nearly endless stream of commodities flows daily across the surface of the globe. Despite this unceasing torrent of goods and services, the work that goes into making and moving them remains invisible in our day-to-day conversations. The smiling trucks that bring smiling packages to our doorsteps are integral to keeping our economy moving. But somehow, we've forgotten that there is no such thing as free shipping. Our propensity to obscure economic relations is nothing new. This is precisely what Marx meant by the term commodity fetishism when he made his blistering critique of the contemporary political economy of his day. Social relations between people appeared as relations between things. In his day, the middle of the 19th century, industrial capitalism was still in the ascendant. Then it was the factory producing a limitless supply of widgets, which produced the wealth of the nation. In our digital age, we view abstract algorithms and clicks as the productive engine of our economy, concealing the work of the warehouse worker and delivery driver, along with the programmer and call center rep. Even more, it hides the hands of the miners of cobalt and other precious earth metals, at the same time that it disguises the work of factory hands that manufacture goods using machines built on the other end of the globe. My work tries to understand the formation of the myth of our age, whether it is the post-industrial society, the knowledge economy, or more recently the service sharing or gig economy. I want to understand how a particular way of looking at the world became the dominant or hegemonic one. It was the abnormally affluent days of the post-war era that helped construct the utopian vision that continues to predominate, despite cracks in its facade. Following the Second World War, the United States was the last man standing. With the rest of the world's productive capacity ravaged by war, America, by completely contingent circumstance, became the workshop, marketplace, and reserve currency of the world. While Keynesian demand management policy helped bring the US economy back from the brink of depression, the long view of history has shown that more than any one policy, it was this creative destruction in the Cold War that shaped the boom that followed the darkest decades of the 20th century. Rebuilding the world and superpower competition helped create the golden age of capitalism. It was the crucible of this unprecedented moment of prosperity in the United States that the idea of the idea economy was forged. Surveying the increasing living standards and leisure time, thinkers like J.K. Galbraith and Daniel Bell believed we could achieve a world in which the worst manual toil was done by machines, and highly educated knowledge workers would handle the higher order problems of the day, save a highly prescient few like Ernest Mandel. Even critics of capitalism tended to agree with this analysis of the affluent society. The New Left saw it as their duty to awaken the slumbering masses from their consumer coma, while the New Right saw it as theirs to put a brake on the cultural revolution they saw as brought on by the rampant consumerism of the Golden Age. Both saw these problems to be fought out on the terrain of culture, leaving the economic engine at the base to chug along. However, following the oil shock of 1973, and the subsequent
Inflation is just
economic
like
crises of
alcoholism.
the
In both
1970s.
cases, when you start
The warning
drinking,
signs that
or
the
when you
age of the
start putting too
Keynesian
much on it.
consensus was over
Those
went
effects
from
come
whisper
first,
to shout.
and the bad effects only come
The
later.
interregnum
That's
between the
why, in
Golden
both
Age
cases,
and what is
there's a
now
strong
commonly
temptation
referred
to
to as
overdo
the
it, to
neoliberal
drink too
era
much,
was
and to
a
pay too
fight
much
between the
attention.
last
When it
gasps
comes
of
to the
labor
cure, it's the other way
liberalism
around.
and the onslaught
When you
of
stop drinking,
austerity
or when you
represented by
stop printing money,
resurgent
the bad
interests of
effects come
capital in
first.
the form of
The good effects
multinational
only come later.
competition and international finance. Workers left out of the labor capital compact fought for their piece of the pie in an era of diminishing expectations. With workers left out in the cold and shut out of the previous social contract by racial and gender barriers, the new neoliberal age fought to keep the consumer republic afloat with access to extensive lines of credit. This process left the dream of the post industrial economy alive, even as its material basis eroded. The last gasps of the affluent society survived the end of history only by embracing a dream that was based in an assessment of a bygone era. Even though the post war bubble burst, the hopes it gave birth to lived on due to the leveraging of public investment made private. Blue sky research found its application, which allowed the myth of full automation to live on. Even as most of the world's economic growth was to be found in the industrialization of previously unindustrialized economies like China and India. Thus, it is my contention that rather than a higher economic stage, the post industrial society is less a transcendence of an earlier stage of development, but rather its universalization.